I grew up on this railroad down here. And I remember as a kid when the railroad train would come through Zaleski, blow the whistle, and we'd run down through the field just to stand down there and watch the train go past. I have a lot of history with it.
Well, there's nothing left of Moonville, not 1 inch of track.
The story of the Moonville Rail is a story of a once booming industry, a ghost story, a story of neglect, but it's also the story of people coming together to turn an abandoned rail into an abundant trail.
And where the tracks have been, you can still see the brakeman's light.
Rich with natural resources, industrial cities sprouted up in the Hocking Hills, connected by rail.
The Moonville Rail Trail is a railroad track back in the 1800s that they hauled iron ore supplies even back as far as the Civil War. They produced iron for the Civil War here in this neighborhood. In the mid-'80s, the train quit running, and like everything else, I figure that the trucking industry took the business away from them.
Then after they closed up the railroad, they took all the tracks and all the bridge abutments and everything out.
And then they even bid out the bridges so that people bought the bridges for the steel and the scrap.
And unused, the old rail line sat for years, becoming an eyesore in an area known for its scenic beauty, until a local horseman entered the picture.
I ride about every other weekend, 3 or 4 days, and the rest of the time I spend in maintaining and developing trails. We've rode for the last 15, 18 years out of the horse camp up on Turner Ridge, and we used to like to ride down here and ride to the tunnel. The Moonville Rail Trail is not like a straight railroad track like we have in other parts of Ohio through the flatlands. They had to keep turning and twisting to get through these hills down here. So it has a little better scenery than most railroad trails. To make this property a usable trail, we had to have a great number of volunteers because the property set for 10, 12 years. So we had to have all the volunteers trim it back and remove the down trees so you could actually get through it.
I've got involved with it when Neil started on it. I don't like to work, but I will. And it's just something that we got started. And once we get a hold of something, we just do our best to finish it.
This whole project development is through volunteers, donations, and grant money. The counties are not investing any of their money, which in Southern Ohio, with our poor economic situation, we don't want to burden the counties with supporting this trail or building this trail.
But to bridge the gaps in the trail, the Moonville volunteers got creative and reached back into the trail's past.
When we originally found out how many bridges we needed, we had a company up near Toledo give us a bid, an estimate, and they wanted over $3 million for factory manufactured bridges. So we got to thinking outside the box, and we found old railroad cars abandoned, and they were free. These railroad cars are huge. They're 10 feet wide and 50 feet long. And they took the wheels and couplings and brake formation out from underneath of the car, and we set those flatbed cars on the original foundation where the bridge was.
And while railroad cars have recently returned, according to local folklore, some pieces of the rail's history have never left.
Don't ever go down by Moonville. Don't you ever go at night.
To the Moonville Tunnel was supposed to be haunted. And there's people that claim when they go through the tunnel, they can feel the cold chill.
It's just like goosebumps raising up on your arms when you go through the tunnel. Back in around the 1850s, a brakeman that worked for the railroad was in the tunnel and was coming through, and he heard the train coming, and then he tried to stop the train. And he was swinging his lantern back and forth, and the train ran over him and killed him.
To this day, when night falls, some have claimed to see the light of the brakeman's lantern swinging in vain.
Now and then where the tracks have been, you can still see the brakeman's light.
But for those who hike, bike, and ride on the trail, the risk of encountering the brakeman is a small price to pay to experience the Moonville Rail Trail.
It is just so awesome to be able to come over in here, in a nice, quiet setting, out in the country, and just all these beautiful trees, and just to be able to ride my horse and forget about the hectic of life.
Usually there's nothing going on much out there besides the wildlife, you and your horse, and you can just bury all the worries of the world.
The serenity of it, you get out and you just kind of lose yourself in the stillness and just to be able to walk the trail and see what, has taken place. My father used to work for the railroad, so for me, I think of it more right away because of my father. And if he was living today, I know he would really enjoy what we're doing.